What is going on, y'all? You eat today, you drink today, good. It's Hyena the Breezy here, and I have been hyperfixating on X-Men 97 since its release. And me being me, I tied it back into fighting games and how there are no X-Men in sight in MVC Infinite. So I come to you today with 5 less popular X-Men who would be great for a Marvel vs. Capcom game, yet who has never been in one. Got it? Good, then alright, it's time to
enter the heat of battle. Go for it.
Kicking things off, we have Dust. Dust is a mutant from Afghanistan who was initially found by Phantom X after she used her abilities to skin some slave traders alive who attempted to remove her E.T.H.O.B. After this, she was approached by Wolverine, who brought her into the X-Men fold. Dust has the mutant power to turn herself into a human sandstorm. She can also spread her sand particles thin, so it makes it hard for telepaths like Jean Grey and Emma Frost to detect her. She can also take these sand particles and form them into tiny, microscopic yet deadly blades. Now with all of this, I thought she would make the perfect rushdown character. I'm gonna be honest and say it was a little hard to come to this conclusion because I kept essentially making her Kukri from King of Fighters, another character with the power of sand. But I believe I was able to put together a few ideas that could differentiate her from him, such as an air move that allows her to turn into a cloud of sand that can let her float for a small period of time. From here, she could turn into a sharp bladed form for an omnidirectional dive kick, giving her the opportunity to evade and attack. Can also give her a move where she turns into a spinning drill made of sand where she charges at the opponent, sort of like a Psycho Crusher. But also give her a feint version of the attack so she can fake out people for mix-ups. For a level 1, she could invade the opponent's body by turning into a dust cloud and entering their eyes, their ears, and their mouth. While she's in there, she'll turn her body into tons of spikes to pierce her opponent's body from every inch. And just cause why not, let's make her level 3 super a command grab where she traps you in a giant swirling sandstorm. While you're stuck in there, she'll send millions upon millions of tiny microscopic sand blades to cut you down piece by piece. Also, other than being a cool character with a fun mutant ability for a moveset, I just think it'd be dope to see a Muslim fighting game character with a niqab and a baya because I've never seen one before. Also, I drew a part of the cast in my little mock X-Men beat-em-up game animation that you should probably go check out, I'm just saying. Anyway, all the more reason to have Dust show up in the next Marvel vs. Capcom.
Next location is...
Okay, next up on the list, we have without a doubt the strangest one I have for you today. It is Glob Herman. Glob was a student of the Xavier Institute for Gifted Youngsters, as well as a member of the Omega Mutants. If you couldn't already tell, his mutation is a lot more extreme than most others. His mutation makes it so everything in his body except for his skeleton, eyes, and intestines are made of bioparaffin, a waxy, gooey type substance. Besides being kinda gross, this also boosts his strength, speed, and agility, and lets him separate and throw his different body parts. Now that we know what he can do, let's get to his moveset and playstyle. Now when I see this big walking mess of sticky slime, I instantly think grappler. Since Glob is much more jokey and lighthearted compared to the other grapplers on Marvel's side of the Versus series, I'd say his moves would be much more jovial and upbeat compared to his counterparts. For his main command grab, he would wind his arm up like he was going for an exaggerated punch, reeling his body back and then throwing his arm out. Then as the hit connects with the opponent, their head would get stuck in Glob's hand. Then Glob would swing the opponent above his head like the Jimmy Dancing gif until slamming them into the pavement. And just cause it sounds fun to me while I'm recording this, let's make that move a negative edge and have the wind up be able to go and go and go until you let go of the button. Now the next move I have for you is a stage hazard. You know how I said earlier that he could throw his different body parts at you. Well, let's say Glob could throw a piece of himself on the ground as sort of a sticky trap, making it harder for rushdowns to get in on him. And throwing it further past the opponent could make it harder for people to stay out of his range. Onto his supers, I'd say his level 1 could be a air grab. He could spread his arms out like he's going for a big hug and then trap you in his weird waxy embrace. Then he'll come crashing down with you in a big comical splat. And for his level 3, I took inspiration from this comic panel right here, and I thought that would be perfect for a sort of install super. He could be suddenly caught on fire, massively boosting his damage, but since he's weak to fire himself, it would slowly decline his health. Okay, now that we got my weirdest character out of the way, let's go ahead and check out the next one.
Next location is...
Now technically I'm cheating with this one because she is not an X-Men, but I want more Morlock representation outside of the comics, so I am going with Callisto. Callisto is the most well-known leader of the Morlocks, and probably the face of the Morlocks to a lot of people. For y'all that don't know, the Morlocks are usually a group of mutants with less aesthetically pleasing mutations. For this, they were outcasted into the sewers and forced to take care of each other. Now Callisto's mutant power doesn't really make her like most of the Morlocks. Her mutation essentially makes her a super soldier, but it is the scars she got for being a mutant in the first place that led her down this path of leading her team. Moveset wise, I'd say Callisto would focus on being a close range character with strong pressure and heavy frame advantage, with her normals being focused on her knives that she carries around. But I feel like where we could make her a little more interesting is her specials. You know Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? Good, okay. You know Captain Ginyu, and how his specials make him sort of a public character where he can summon out the Ginyu Force. I'm saying what Captain Ginyu is for the Ginyu Force, we should have Callisto be that for the Morlocks. I think it'd be cool if Callisto was a cameo machine for all the most famous Morlocks. For example, we could have Callisto send out Tommy, who has the mutant power to flatten out into paper and wrap around the opponent for a stun. For another special, we can bring back a character from an old Marvel vs. Capcom with Marrow from MVC2, because she was also a Morlock at a time, and sadly will probably never be back as a playable character. But we can have her make a special appearance and have her do her Towering Spine special. Now getting to her supers, for a level 1 we could have her taking her tentacles and doing a barrage punch JoJo style. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention she had tentacles for a little bit, didn't I? Anyway. For her big cinematic level 3, we could have Callisto sending out Leech, whose mutation gives him the superpower to turn off superpowers. So when Leech does that to the opponent to basically nullify them, Callisto can lead the Morlocks charging at the opponent to stomp them out. And there we go, another one down with Callisto. Actually, there's quite a few down since I'm bringing the Morlocks with her, but anyway, to the next one.
Next location is...
Here we go with the most popular pick I have on my list, Magic. Magic is a mutant with the power of teleportation, while also being a sorceress being tied to the realm of Limbo. Limbo is a crazy-ass place filled with monsters and demons that Magic needs to use for her teleportations as a midway point. She was actually stuck there for a good bit as a kid, and eventually came back to be Limbo's Sorcerer Supreme. That's right, she is on Doctor Strange's level. And she's the sister of Colossus, so I guess being strong as hell runs in the family. Now moving on to her moveset. Before we get started, I'm just gonna say this. Trish, I'm sorry. Magic is just gonna be a better version of you. No disrespect, no disrespect. You're still on my team with Taskmaster and Nemesis. But Magic can do everything you can do, but more. We can take the lightning glyphs of Trish and turn them into demonic hellfire for Magic. Plus, if Magic can set up 2 glyphs, it'll allow her to teleport between them. We can take the move Round Trip where Trish throws her sword Sparta and is able to control what it does while it's out there, but make it Magic's big ass blade, the Soul Sword. And give Magic the additional option to make it stay in place and do some small burst damage, having the Soul Sword explode with magical energy. Now on to her supers, we can have Magic activate a summon circle for her level 1, Popping out of that summon circle is a giant red dragon from Limbo to shoot a huge flame beam. And for her big cinematic level 3, we can have Magic taking on her feral black magic using alter ego, Darkchild. Darkchild will drag the opponent into Limbo, pinning you down with the Soul Sword, then rain fire on you with tons and tons of Magic Blast. And before we move on to our last mutant, there is one visual that I absolutely need to be on the cover of this game. That isn't real, but stick with me. Marvel characters on one side, Capcom characters on the other, Magic taking on Dante, the Soul Sword taking on the Devil Sword Dante, both of them clashing in the middle. That sounds dope as hell, right? Right? Anyway, with that out of the way, let's move on to our last mutant.
Next location is...
Now for the final X-Men I have for you today, and my favorite X-Men on this list, Maggot. Maggot comes from South Africa and was originally thought to have stomach cancer. So he decided to run away from home so his family didn't drown in medical bills. He was then found by Magneto, who helped him realize he did not have cancer, but he was a mutant. Turns out his mutation was two isopod-like creatures who were in place of his stomach. He would then go on to name them Eenie and Meenie. Maggot can shoot Eenie and Meenie out of his stomach and control them with his mind. While Eenie and Meenie are outside of his body, they can eat literally anything in seconds. Then after eating, they can return to Maggot's body to give him a massive power boost. For his playstyle, I want to give him a level up mechanic similar to Jamie's from Street Fighter 6. For those unaware, whenever Jamie takes a drink, he gains more damage and more moves. With Jamie's buffs maxing out at 5, I want to keep Maggot's to 3 since you have more characters to manage in Marvel vs. Capcom. Instead of Jamie's drinks, Maggot will shoot out Meanie as a projectile. If it connects, Meanie will chomp on the opponent, then return to Maggot to enable the buffs. One of the moves that can be affected by these buffs is having Eenie swirl around Maggot as a sort of whirlwind attack, with each level of the buff causing the whirlwind to expand wider and wider. Going on to his supers, at level 1 could be him jumping back with his stomach facing upward. Then Eenie and Meanie can shoot out to bite chunks out of the opponent. And for his big level 3, we can have Maggot wrapping his arms around the opponents, squeezing the absolute hell out of them with his boosted power, while Eenie and Meanie absolutely eviscerates them, leaving no crumbs. Thank you for tuning in, that is all I have for you today. If you have any X-Men you'd like to see in Marvel vs. Capcom, or just want to talk about X-Men 97 because it was great, go ahead and leave a comment. And while you're down there, please like and subscribe because it helps a ton. Finally, if you like that art in the X-Men animation I made, go ahead and check out my commission page down below in the description. With all that being said, I've been Hyena Breezy, I was here, and I did the best I can. Later.